What do I want? Yo, welcome back to the Cap Podcast. This is episode 306. That is Taylor McLeod repping the Red Sox on the West Coast, which is something that we'll get into on another podcast. I tried to tell him, but he does what he wants to do. I am Nate Sperlin. Thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, and more. Do us a favor. You don't have to do it now, but like at some point when I'm sure Taylor will make a good point or I'll make a good point, because we're talking about future today. So we're going to have like mad good points, but whichever good point you decide is the appropriate time for you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. Follow Old Milk on Instagram and Twitter at Old Milk Media. Check out the Old Milk Spins playlist on Spotify and this YouTube channel. Also, check out my new article on Pusha T's It's Almost Dry, and you can find all the Old Milk content on oldmilk.co. That being said, I want to say shout out to everybody whose team is in the second round of the NBA playoffs. You know, there's some teams who had players traded from them, and then they were like, oh, we're better without them, and then they don't win a game, and they're the only team that doesn't win a game in the first round. So, you know, that's kind of crazy. But anyway, aside from that, how are you, Taylor?
I'm doing great. Celtics about to come on. Game 1 against the Bucks. Got rid of that team from Brooklyn. The team you asked me if there's going to be hostility, and I said you're not a Nets fan. So, honestly, pretty good to not be a Nets fan.
Yeah. I mean,
right now, repping the Red Sox is just bad in general. So,
I only know one diehard Nets fan, and that's Obas. That's the only guy that I know who's like, oh, go Nets, even when they're trash. And it's like you could
that's your Obas impression.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to help him out because like he loves the Jets too, and I'm like, dude, come bandwagon Lamar with me. We can have a good time. And he's like, no, I don't know. I think he likes suffering anyway. That being said, Taylor, how are you doing today?
Good. It was nice to get two really good albums. I know we're talking Future today, but to get Future and Action Bronson, two of my favorites on Friday, after having a couple good weekends of music in a row, it's been a good little stretch we've been on with some good albums, some good listening in the last couple of weeks. So can't complain. How are you?
I'm doing good. Like to echo your sentiment. I haven't listened to the Action Bronson thing yet, but the Future album I really enjoy, which we're going to get into shortly. And also we have Kendrick coming on I want to say the 13th of May, so in 2 weeks. Yeah. So that's exciting. If there's not a single this week, I don't know. I might start looking at that release date as if it was kind of fishy, but we'll see. But that being said, let's get into what we're talking about today. We're talking about Future's I Never Liked You. Wonder who he's talking about. 16 tracks, 49 minutes long. It features Kanye West, Gunna, Young Thug, Drake, Thames, ESTG, and Kodak Black. Taylor McLeod, what did you think about the new project from Super Future Fire Marshal Astronaut, Pluto?
I thought it was good. I think Hendrix. It's really good. There's a certain texture that to me feels like there's missing. And that just could be that I like a lot of old Future projects more, like that 2014 through 2017 run. But that's also like an unprecedented run from any artist, really. Like in terms of the mixtapes, I mean, you go from Monster to Future Hendrix. That run, that's a 5-year run, 4-year run with 6. I don't know about, bona fide classics, but to me as like a Future, like that's one of my favorite rappers, favorite artists in general.
There's some classics on there for sure.
Right. So there's, like that run. So I think part of it is always looking back to that and wanting everything to stand up to that. But for a Future album in 2022 from a 39-year-old Future, after not getting anything for 2 years, this is perfect. Like First listen was nice, but every listen it keeps getting better. There's a couple runs in this project that are reminiscent of a time when I, like more of a classic Future to me. From song 5 to song 10, I think is crazy. And I think honestly, I think all of the features did their parts justice, did their verses justice, did what they were responsible justice. And I think this is a well put together project. It might be a little long. It feels like some tracks are a little bit of filler, but apart from that, I think it's a really good future project. I think it's a good project in general, and I'm definitely going to be playing it for a long time.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're recording this on Sunday, and apparently he's going to drop the deluxe version to this tomorrow. So we'll see what new songs we get out of that as well. Because I mean, going into the album and just looking at the track list and seeing that it's 16 tracks, I kind of thought that, okay, well, he's gonna figure out a way to get it to 20 somehow, because that's what he's been doing recently. But I do like this project. We didn't get Future last year, which was kind of disappointing, but I think that this makes up for it. It shows that he's still, at least he's still in his prime in some form or fashion. I think that I don't know if I like this more than High Off Life, but I do really, really like this project. I think that the one thing just off rip, um, that kind of makes me question. First of all, I really like the album, obviously, but in terms of, okay, is this better than past Future projects? Is this what is this what I expect from Future right now? It's what I expect from Future right now. Is it better than past Future projects? That's something that probably has to grow on me a little bit more, or something I have to wrestle with a little bit more. I think that the first point I want to bring up is, I think that throughout some of the Future projects, and I don't think that the intro track on this 7:12 p.m., I don't think that it really holds up to other intro tracks like Thought It Was a Drought, Rent Money, No Cap on the Super Slimy with Young Thug, Jet Lag with Juice World and World on Drugs, Never Stop, Trapped in the Sun, Stripes Like Burberry on the tape with Lil Uzi. I don't know if I would put this intro track in the same classification as those tracks I just mentioned from Future Past.
I it's not as good as, I mean, Thought It Was a Drought, Thought It Was a Drought. To me, Never Stop is one of my favorite Future songs. That's like 6 minutes of him just like going. In that's probably my favorite Future. That ends up being kind of my favorite for a lot of artists when they're just like blacking out on a beat. So I think that 7:12 p.m. is actually kind of, I like it a lot. It made me really excited when I first played it. Like, I thought it was maybe it doesn't necessarily fit the rest of the album, if that makes sense. I think that it is a little bit more like Future just going, as opposed to starting off this album that obviously every Future project comes with all the, everyone thinks they're the most hilarious tweeter in the history of fucking tweets, doing every like, oh, I'm so toxic, like I remember back when we were this, Hope Lil Bro working on the jump shot, like what I'm talking about. So it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily fit the rest of the project maybe, but in terms of a standalone intro track, it holds up to me. Obviously, the best part about Future, especially an artist that puts out as much music as he does, it's slowed down in the past couple of years. But when you have someone who was dropping like twice a year for 5 or 6 years in a row, you have so many intro tracks to compare it to. So it's kind of like taking this one good Future track and being like, all right, how does it fit into these 10 amazing intros? So, you know what I mean? Like, I like it. It probably doesn't hold up to some of the other intros, but to me, it definitely was like, all right, I'm ready for a Future album the second I played it.
Yeah, I think it definitely feels like something that belongs on a Future album. I just, maybe I'm getting too nitpicky with track listing. I was talking about track listing last week too, when we were talking about Pusha T. Maybe I'm getting a little too nitpicky there. But it's that time. It's the summer. We gotta start. We gotta start distinguishing. Okay, you're good, but you're not great. We gotta figure out who the contenders are. What's the song of the summer? It's almost that time, even though the weather outside doesn't always say that. It was like 30 degrees, windy. Like it was crazy like 2 days ago, but in April. But anyway, that's besides the point. I think the first track, if we're going in order, the first track that I really, really enjoyed was Keep It Burning with Kanye West. ATL Jacob and DB produced that. I really like that beat. I really like the Kanye verse on it too. I like the Future verse on it too. I think that that verse is the first track where it's like it's the first track in when you first encounter the album when you're like, okay, this is potentially a track that's going to be played into the ground by the radio.
Yeah. I think that Kanye went crazy on the hook. The verse, it was the same way with his features on the Pusha T album where he's, talking about his family and stuff. How much time Kanye spends in the news. It's been a couple months, obviously, and things have slowed down, but how much time Ye spends in the news, and especially in the social media era where we're hearing everything that's happening immediately, we're reading it immediately. We don't get there's no there's not so much mystery anymore with someone like a huge artist like Kanye or Drake. There's not so much mystery about what's going on in their life, and then we hear it in the music. So to hear him be like, oh, like when I run in 2024, like my spouse is gonna be with me, it's like, all right, dude, like it's like, come on, like I get that there's a ton of things outside of the music that he's always been involved in and is getting increasingly involved in, but after a hook where he's like super aggressive and talking about talking about like you got change for $1 billion and stuff, to hear him be like, I'm running for president though, it was like, just stick to the script, not your script, future script. That's what I mean. It was like, this is a
No,
future album. We're not talking about running for president.
that is true, because I think when we first heard that Ye was gonna have some part on this album at all, we thought that we would get more of a toxic, like the extracurricular stuff outside of the music. He just he's getting a divorce and he's going through it with his family, like with the family life, and et cetera, et cetera. We kind of thought that we'd get more of a either more of a introspective Ye or more of a toxic Ye, and that verse wasn't either.
Like
But
he was like, "We did it, Joe. Like what y'all do?" I was like,
I actually
all right.
wrote down the line. I got you right now. He was like, "Who put this?" He said, "Who put this together?" Me. That's who. We did it, Joe. But what they really do? All
Like
right.
he's putting lines in here like a NASCAR Twitter account, and I'm like, like yo, he went off. The hook is insane.
Mm-hmm.
His flow is insane. To hear Ye rapping like that again, like, and it's also there are certain things that come with age. He's 45 years old. Like, I don't expect him to go back to his graduation bag and pull out a stronger verse, but
That'd be crazy.
it was just so awesome to hear him like that, and like the beat is insane, and then knowing Future's coming, like after that first Kanye verse, and then like I said 3 times already, the hook, I love the hook, but then those 2 little lines, I'm like, it's like they like bring your attention away for a second, and it's like, maybe that's too nitpicky, but it's like there's like a little second of like, all right. But then it starts. Then
All right,
Future
where's
comes in,
Future
and it's
at?
like, all right, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we have our second, at least to my knowledge, our second track, consisting of Future, Gunna, and Young Thug on this album, For a Nut. Um, First off, I think that the song's really good. I don't think it's better than Push and P, but I think the question that I want to ask is essentially, Young Thug is teasing new music. Does Young Thug also have a song where it's himself, Future, and Gunna? Because Gunna's done it on his album and Future's done it on this album. Do you think Young Thug has one track like that?
1,000%. 1,000%. I know he posted the picture of him covered in what looks like blood, so I assume. I don't know if it's safe to assume. I hope, fingers are crossed, that Slime Season 4 is on the horizon. That would be insane, because it's been. Slime Season 3 came out in 2015, 2016. So it's been a while since one of those. So I think if there is a Slime Season coming and there's a Gunna and Future song on it, if I had to guess right now, it'll be better than Push and P, and it'll be better than Fortnite.
I don't know.
But we don't even know if it exists.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a valid prediction.
Heavy speculation over here. But I really like that song. What do you think about people saying, Future, I think it was Hip Hop by the Numbers, and they were like, Young Thug is 30, Gunna's 28, and Future is 38 on this, and they made this track. I guess what they're trying to hint at is maybe there should be more maturity on this album. But what do you think about that I guess criticism?
Well, it's the same thing I said last week about people complaining about Pusha T with Coke bars. Have you not been listening to their music the entire? It's not like they've been leading to like, oh, Future's gonna become Talib Kweli when he turns 40. Like I don't get why people, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But to be like, oh, they should really be more mature. It's like, have you not been listening to their music since they started? All three of them have songs like this, have lines like this, have I just don't, it's not a valid criticism to me. It's like it's not like I don't know. There are criticisms to be made about the lives of people, I guess, but not from hip hop by the numbers, not from a Twitter account that breaks down lines based on their content. Like it's like, do you want to do your job or do you want to like cast judgment? It's like, do your thing. No one needs to hear you talk about maturity. Tell us what the lines are about and then log out.
So what do you think about the concept of people wanting their artists to mature? Because I think when you look at someone like, I guess, G Herbo, for example, you see him being more mature in his lyrics as time goes on. Like there's artists like that who were like, even Jay-Z, were like, okay, this is not something that you would have rapped about 20 years ago or when you first started, but now you're getting to this bag where you're like, okay, let me try to give some free game to the younger folks, and we love that from you. What do you think about, do you think that's a legit expectation from fans of artists, or do you think that fans should just accept whatever art an artist wants to create?
I think it's a fair expectation from fans to want that, but for the Twitter accounts that break down the music to come and start criticizing it, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, of course, I loved it when some of my favorite artists have, gone in different lanes and, refined what they're rapping about and looked inside themselves and talk to other generations or other artists more. And sometimes it can be disappointing. I mean, as like a Drake fan, to me, Scorpion, for its pros and cons, I thought was a step towards One Direction, and then Certified Lover Boy comes out and it felt like a step almost back to like Thank Me Later Drake, talking about being in the clubs in Houston. But that's like, there's a difference between having expectations because you've listened to an artist for a decade and being a Twitter account that literally just breaks down the lyrics and being like, you should really grow up, Future. It's like, okay, awesome. Like, and it's also like, do we want to hear a 444 from Future?
I'm curious. Honestly, I think I'd be curious to see what his version of that would be,
I would
because
too.
he isn't someone that raps about all the um typical hip hop things. There are times where he is introspective, and I think that a whole album of that from Future would, I think that would probably play better than it would from a lot of other artists.
Right. And I agree because he has stories that like the Twitter fans don't even like. He was in like the Dungeon Family like house when like Andre 3000 was in there like recording. So he's been around like legends of hip hop, and he is a hip hop legend, but he like, this has been his entire like adult life has been like, you know what I mean? Like obviously, like you can hear it in the music, and he talks about it in the music, talks about it in interviews. If you watch like the Wizard documentary, he addresses it in there. And so, but right now, I mean, based on the albums that have been around this, and also like his social media activity, and just like knowing what we do about his life, we're not getting a 444 anytime soon. I don't know why people expect it. I mean, we didn't get a 4, like Jay-Z was like 47 when he put that album out. And it's also like he had been like a dad for 10 years, married. It's like you're expecting these, I don't know, the expectations to me just don't add up to like what people like what is so clearly in front of, like, yeah, if this album had just been a 444, I would have loved it. Like I would have been like, oh, this is a side of Future that we've only got glimpses of, and now we're getting the whole thing. but it's literally called I Never Liked You. Like I just don't know what these people expect when these albums are so clearly going to be one thing. And then they're like, Future, I really would have liked to hear you rapping about mowing your lawn and driving your kids to school. Like, that's really what I wanted.
Nobody wants
and
them
I was
logic
like,
bars from Future.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And it just doesn't make sense to me why people are like critical of three artists like that who have been doing this forever. It makes sense to me, but at the same time, I'm like, what'd you expect?
Yeah, like I think that there's a difference between expectations if an artist is going in that direction or just your own projecting your own expectations onto an artist. I think, for example, um there are some artists where they put out singles and all the singles kind of sound like one direction, and then you hear the album and the album is nothing like the singles, and you're like, okay, what is this? I think that's a reasonable expectation. But if there's nothing that really hints at, okay, we're going to get a more vulnerable Future for the duration of this album, if there's nothing hinting at that, then I guess I don't I the criticism isn't completely invalid to me, but it's just what triggers that criticism in the first place, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you your time to stand out real quick because there's two Future and Drake songs. I'm sorry.
There are.
That being said, we have Wait for You featuring Drake and Thames, and then we have I'm on One featuring Drake. Which song is a better combination of Drake and Future to you? And just go off, have a blast.
To me, Wait for You is so much better than I'm on One.
Mhm.
I don't like it, and this isn't like a surprise if you've ever, and like I've had a conversation with you about it. I don't The version of Drake on I'm on One isn't my favorite version of Drake.
Mhm.
Like I think it's cool. I think he slides on the beat, like it sounds good. I'll play it. But to me, Wait for You is so much better. And I guess this, building off the conversation we just had, this is more like where, even though some of the Drake lines on Wait for You are kind of cringy to me, like I was supposed to be a dog, but you put me in a kennel, stuff like that. Like some of them are kind of like, all right, but like that's also what we've come to expect from Drake for the last 15 years. Like it's nothing new, but to me, that song, the production with Thames on it, what it's about is so much. To me, that's such a better song than
That
I'm
might
on One.
be my favorite. It's definitely in the contention for one of my favorite songs on the album. I don't think it is without Thames's presence on it. I think that
No,
Thames makes that song so much better than what it is, or I mean, what it would have been without Thames. So I think that that song, as well as Back to the Basics, there's just a more of a presence of sampling, whether it's from a featuring artist or from a completely different track
yeah,
on those two tracks that I'm not. And you probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember hearing from other Future, like I don't remember hearing Future on sample beats like that. I can't think of another song like that. Can you?
no, there aren't like a lot of them that stand out to me. And I just think the way Future works and the way he sounds and the way we've, grown accustomed to hearing him. I don't know if like I don't know if I want a super sample heavy. I'd be interested to hear
Mhm.
what it sounds like, because there have been songs like I sent you Earth by Mac Miller and Future last week, and that's more of like a piano driven, like a little bit more like bouncy with some more like sample vibes. And I like that Future, because one of the biggest criticisms of Future is, oh, I can't understand what he's saying. Like it's blah 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 blah. And when I have heard him on maybe a slower instrumental or an instrumental where there's more space for him to just work, as opposed to getting on top of a beat and like it's like a very like either intricate or very fast or very, you know, heavy beat. It is nice to hear Future sometimes like sit back and show, hey, I have been rapping for 20 years, and there's a reason I'm here. And like, if you really listen to every project he's put out, he's been rapping on every project he's
Mm,
ever put out. There's no even on songs when he admitted that he couldn't even, he was like slurring crazy because of whatever he was doing, like he's still going crazy. And it's like the flows and the cadences and the patterns and everything are so much more than people ever give him credit for. But I think it'd be cool to hear him on more stuff like that. And this song, I think it's Thames time too. It's
yeah.
like after the 2021, after 2021, it's like it's Thames time. And to hear that with two artists, like on Drake and Future's level, it's like, yeah, sometimes you have to like let these newer artists who have new ideas and like lead the way. And I
Mm,
think Drake and Future both fell in line perfectly. Obviously, it's a Future song and they're the bigger artists, but I think that Thames led the way on that song and made room for Future and Drake to really just do what they're supposed to. And to me, that's my favorite song on the album, besides maybe like Puffin on Zooties or Holy Ghost. But but to me, that is the song that I keep coming back to the most.
yeah, I think that what this album, the more that we talk about, I think what this album does for Future is it kind of gives fans a sample of how he sounds in how he sounds on beats that aren't typical for of having Future verses on them.
Yeah.
And because now he can potentially put out a whole album of sample like beats from Kanye, and we can probably digest that better versus if we hadn't heard any of these tracks before, and all of a sudden it's a album full of beats from Kanye, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like I
Right.
think that we can digest where Future, wherever he decides to go after this, I think that we can digest it much better because of this album. And I think that at least based on our conversation, I think that that's what makes this album important in
Yeah.
Future's discography.
He said it too. He said that the Wizard in High Off Life were the end of a previous version of Future. And if this is, I mean, here, let me just pull it up. Like Love You Better coming right after Wait for You. I
Mhm.
couldn't remember if there was one song in between or not. That coming right after is is perfect. And it's showing people that maybe didn't understand the range of Future as an artist bigger than just fuck up some commas or thought it was a drought or any of the newer songs that have really gone off, like Mascot or anything. I feel like those two songs were more reminiscent of Hendrix, which is my favorite Future project. And if this is a shift towards more like Hendrix like music, or even taking that middle run on this project and the next one fleshing it out, I think that's the perfect direction for him to go. I also think any direction he goes would be the perfect direction for him to go, because I just trust that.
Come on, it's
I
Future.
just Yeah, right. I trust that he understands himself as an artist and understands what he's supposed to be doing whenever he's doing it. So I think that all this fits really well. And if it is the next step, that's great. And if not, that I'm still gonna play the next project the second it drops. So
Oh no, for sure. So last, I think the one point I want to make is just really quick. The Kodak verse on the Kodak chorus on Voodoo, amazing, love it.
he's really impressive on that
Yeah.
track.
Also, I think that the way things going towards the end of the project is one of my favorite tracks. Also, it feels more. It feels like it's possibly the most introspective Future gets on the album. I just love when he gets in that bag. It kind of reminds me of he had a song with DJ Esco, if I remember the name correctly. Actually, let me find it. It's on the first DJ Esco project that came out in 2014. Um, How the Game Go is what it's called. If you've
Yeah.
ever heard that song before, it kind of gives me those types of vibes. But it's more. It seems like if there's a song on the entire project where the weight of the content he's talking about is heaviest, I think that it's on the way things are going, the way things going.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect assessment. I think the end of future projects and also like a lot of projects are where artists have the most like leeway to really get into things, because if you're still listening at that point, which obviously when it comes to like a future, I'm gonna be listening to the whole thing. There's no question that I'm listening to from top to bottom. But for the people who are still there, those are the people who, in my estimation, are probably the most likely to actually really want to be there still.
Mhm.
And that's the perfect spot. So I think while tracks 5 to 10, so from like Puffin on Zooties to Chickens with the STG is probably my favorite run on the album. Those last, I think it's 3 songs, or I guess I'm on one is right in the middle there, but Holy Ghost, the way things going, and Back to the Basics. If you take I'm on one out or just leave it in, it's still a good song. But I think that's where he's able to get into those things, because at that point you're dealing with a little different audience. I'm on one, putting it down there is going to keep people listening. Obviously,
Mhm.
the more this person who's just like here for the bangers, but I think you're definitely right in that that's the song that gets probably the most into things.
Yeah. So that being said, what are your favorite tracks on I Never Liked You?
So looking at the track list now, 7:12 p.m. I love Puffin on Zooties, Wait for You, Love You Better. I like Chickens. I like Holy Ghost, The Way Things Going, and Back to the Basics.
That long list made me feel better because I kind of have a long list too.
Yeah.
Keep It Burning with Kanye, Gold Stacks, Wait for You, Voodoo with Kodak Black, The Way Things Going, and I'm on one. I think that I do need to give Back to the Basics a few more listens though. I did like it. I thought it was a good outro track, but it doesn't, I don't know. I think by that time I kind of might have tuned out a little, but we'll we'll just keep listening to it until I'm completely into it, I guess. Yeah. So that being said, that is episode 306 of the Cat Podcast. Taylor, you're repping Red Sox over there. Do you have anything you want to say to the boys in red in Boston?
They're terrible right now. They're not playing well at all. Celtics are halfway through the first quarter. I feel confident about them. This could be the year. This could be the year. Middleton's out. Chris Middleton's out for the Bucks. I think they match up well with both the Heat and the Sixers. Obviously, they have to win this series first, and they're dealing with the best player in the world. So,
Mm.
it's going to be tough. But oh man, they're just showing Jack Harlow at the Garden right now on
Oh,
TV. That's crazy.
that's a curse.
Yeah, I don't feel great about that anymore.
Do you want to walk anything back? Anything you just said back?
Oh no.
Last
I
minute?
think Tatum. I think Tatum's holding up the trophy at the end of the year. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's just how I feel right now. I think he's been the best player in the playoffs.
I think.
So
I mean, I'll wait until this series is over because I also do think that he was. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets didn't win a game. It's the
no,
only team in the playoffs that did not win a game.
yeah. The
Period.
Celtics right now they're doing the whole thing where they just take the ball out of the other guy's hands. Like it's not intercepting passes or anything. It'll just be like Smart or Tatum like guarding 1-on-1 and just takes it. And like they don't even like poke it away. They just take it and grab it. They're like, no, that's mine now. And go the other way.
Real street ball shit.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
I think what other games tonight? Or today. Warriors and
Yeah.
they effed the Grizzlies with that time. Because they just finished playing on Friday and now they gotta play on Sunday, a new series. Like they're gonna get more time off. I'm just saying, you know.
That's tough.
But yeah, I know. But anyway, thank you for watching the Cat Podcast. I hope at some point during one of Taylor's very intelligent points or one of my intelligent points that you decided to like and subscribe to the channel. That being said, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Old Milk Media. Check out the Old Milk Spins playlist on Spotify and YouTube. Check out my new article on Pusha T's It's Almost Dry. And check out all the Old Milk content on oldmilk.co. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to enjoy life, and we will be back when hip hop tells us to be. We are out.